everyone, and welcome to Brad in 2025. Hope that's visible / legible enough for you. But yeah, just the year-end summary of how my 2025 went. I'm working with a different slideshow presenter thing than Office, so there's some hiccups and some learning and yada yada, so my apologies for that. But, we're here for just the basic. Let's get this out of the way. Also, really quick, this is the alpha test for, hey, I'm working in the basement now because I have a bit more room and I can make it work better and I can have a visual screen like this. And before you say anything about Brady seem to be off center or whatever, it doesn't matter as much about me. It's more about the screen because there are some visuals and words and yada yada, and hopefully you can read them. But yeah, so it's just the annual bit of fun looking back now with visuals. I didn't have time to make it grand, but this is the trial run. Next year I'll do better. I hope. But yeah, so let's get through 2025. Brad's perspective. What Brad did, whatever Brad saw, etc., etc. January. I completed Slide 2 Band of Thieves. Basically, it was one of the big games from my childhood, from the PlayStation 2 era, and, it was fun completing it. I would say probably my favorite of the now quadrilogy, 4 games, just because the first game was a platformer like Crash Bandicoot, oh hey, one hit, you're out. But this game expanded on the original game. You got to play more characters, you got to have health, you got to do so many different, you got to do a bit more, and it was the most interesting, compelling story, and it has a few great highlights, like Bentley the Turtle saving the gang, and also just everyone growing and maturing as characters. Definitely well worth it. And then January 17th, my mom had foot surgery. In 2024, I think, she had foot surgery, basically resetting her toes and stuff like that, and that was a crazy ordeal. I'm not telling you this stuff to gross people out. I'm just telling you this stuff because it affected me. You might have to help people in your own time, and it's a challenge. But it's doing good. It's well worth it. We're actually in the middle of recovering from another surgery, knee replacement surgery, and she has to have the other one done at some point because of course. But yeah, so moving on to February. We replaced the furnace. The furnace needed replacing. Do I really have to say anything else about that? Also, we got central air set up, so it's cooler than it used to be, which I appreciate living on the second floor. Although, with this little trial run of working in the basement, I might move down here in the summertime. I'm hoping. I'll have my bed still upstairs, but I'll be working down here a lot more, hopefully. And then second, went to the Halcyon Lodges. It is a nearby restaurant / bar. Literally, I can walk there. Ignore that crashing sound. This is uncut. Bar, restaurant that underwent renovations, literally within walking distance from my house. I don't know if it changed owners or whatever, but hey, it's a nice little place. Not particularly for me, but whatever. March. Finished Cobra Kai Season 6? Whatever the final season was. Had some points that, if you're critical, stretch belief, but I liked how the story ended. I'm, all for coming-of-age stories. Cobra Kai, Stranger Things, Stand By Me, the Animorph series, Pendragon, so many series about, young adults coming into their own. But, yeah. And then the Suikoden Remastered. One of the big games from my childhood. I'm talking when I was still maybe single digits or just hit double digits. Suikoden 1 and 2 from the PlayStation era of gaming. And I got to be at 100% both games, which is kind of a challenge. Because one of the big draws of the game, as you can see here, there are so many people. You have to recruit 108 individual characters. Granted, a number come along with the plot, but there are some very hidden characters. One of the big major hidden ones is Peshmerga in both games, basically a vampire hunter who shows up at the end of 2 very annoying dungeons. In Suikoden, it's Necklord's Castle. In 2, it is the Cave of the Eternal Wind or something like that. I forget. But yeah, unfortunately, there are some obstacle trophies that I opted not to chase because I tried them a lot and they were a pain. So I did not get the platinum trophy in that, but that happens. Moving on to April. SakaiCon. This is a first-time convention with some former OhioCon staff, making a new convention in Central Ohio. It was a good time, well worth the effort and drive, and I plan on attending again in October 2026. I forget what the issue was with scheduling, with like putting it in April last year and then October this year. But, I think October is what they're going to be shooting for in the future. Do not quote me on that. But yeah, it's a nice convention, good turnout. I got to see Ryan, Hal, Mike, Corey. I feel like there were a few other people, but yeah. My main group of One Piece cosplaying friends, as well as, they do have other interests. And yeah, moving forward. May. Saw Final Destination Bloodlines with Matt. Basically, Matt, Paul, and I had watched the first 3 or 4 together, and had our theories and discussions, like, years ago, closer to when it came out. It's not like a major thing, and basically I just put in the, I want to say Magic the Gathering group chat, oh hey, want to do this, or on my own timeline or something, I forget, and nobody saw it except for Matt. It was an interesting story and a good send-off for the actor Tony Todd, who had passed, unfortunately, in late 2024, if I recall right. I forget. But also, May 27th, learned Medieval 2 was on the PlayStation Store, and, it's just another childhood platforming game. I loved it. I had a lot of fun. I love the character, Daniel Fortescue, the Skull Man. And, yeah, like... it's unfortunately not a game for everyone just because the controls are a bit annoying and finicky. But, I'm glad I got to play this again and I got to get the Platinum Trophy, like I did with the original game, which was a remake actually, because it added in some side quests and a little extra content and yada yada yada. Going quick so my phone camera doesn't turn off. Moving on. This month kind of stung. July 5th. The final Mardi Gras parade. Basically, it's an event that takes place in Fairport, Ohio. They have a parade, they have a carnival. It's just a nice little thing around the 4th of July for people to come together and do some stuff. Unfortunately, this may be the last year of it, because they don't have the people to, organize and yada yada, because, the people who used to do it are growing older, retiring, etc. And I guess new people are not stepping in, unfortunately. I think this was also July 5th, but Ozzy Osbourne, and sorry I misspelled it because I learned there's a U in there, had his final live performance. Basically, he was not doing well in the end, and was on stage, performed, and it was pretty cool. I did not get to see the performance myself, but he's a living legend. The Prince of Darkness himself, man. Like, you gotta send some love for that. And I plan to, because I'll talk about him later. But, a few more things to talk about. October, obviously Halloween and stuff, but, I finished the Strixhaven campaign after 2 years of work. Developing sessions, looking at NPCs, trying to make the story work. Because I've got the book, obviously, but you gotta work in some detail yourself. Like, oh hey, what does this NPC do? Who's the bad guy? Etc., etc. And like, I think I connected the dots well enough where I could do it for people. So hopefully I can get that off the ground, now that we're past Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, etc. But yeah, the campaign went from level 1 to 10. Was roughly 34 sessions, with just my basic, here's what the book gave you for sessions, and then I worked in a couple of my own sessions because I had ideas. And I swear the series, Brad the DM, Strixhaven, is coming back. Basically, it's going to work kind of in this format, and thankfully, I don't have to be as visible for that one, so I can make it so much easier for myself. It's definitely going to take a lot of slides and a lot of work, though. But I feel like it'll be better for the series as a whole. I'm just hoping I can figure out the slide transition stuff so I can have, like, title pop in first. Then, oh, hey, here's this person's turn. Here's what they did. Dice rolls, etc., etc. Just click, click, click. But I got to look at how to do this. I decided to do this very last minute, like, honestly, within the last week before the holiday. And I'm literally recording this New Year's Day at about noon or 1 o'clock. November obviously had Thanksgiving. My mom had her knee replacement surgery literally the day before Thanksgiving. Got her transitioned back to the house on Thanksgiving Day, later in the day. And it was a bit of a transition, and I probably should put up an actual slide for it, but yeah. But things are going pretty good a month out. It's going to be a little bit before she has, like, full mobility, but we are able to do normal things. Like, oh, hey, Alex had us over for Christmas, for a meal with, her family and in-laws and such, and we were able to make that, as well as a few, normal things like doctor's appointments. We literally went to the grocery store for the first time, like, as a team in the last month. Yeah, the first time since before the operation. And it went okay. Like, there were no disasters, because obviously one of my big concerns is, oh hey, it's winter, it's crappy out because it snowed like crazy, and yeah, I don't want anybody tripping. Like me, I'm agile, so I'm not going to trip. But other people might trip. Just saying. But yeah, so moving on to December 26th, saw the Trans-Siberian Orchestra with Pat. Basically, he had the extra tickets. I don't know the whole rigmarole. I'm not going to go into it. But yeah, great show. I will say this, though. It could be overstimulating for some. There is a light show, like lasers and whatnot, so potentially could be an epilepsy concern for some people. Just a heads up. Music, obviously, is a blast. They do a number of Christmas-related songs, Carol of the Bells and such, as well as Beethoven. Some work from Beethoven, in a more modern, like, rock-type style, as well as, of course, their own work. And they've been doing this for 29 years. So they started this back in 96? But yeah, dude, like, if you get the chance, it is worth it. My only other issue, quote-unquote, is the seating for our event. Oh my... It was just too crowded. Like, there were... we had folding chairs, and, we were just so packed in close together, it was a bit uncomfortable for me personally. Just some, like, ache in my leg and shoulder and such, and that's, from whatever, me being 37 or something. But yeah, that's basically just a quick recap of the year. Obviously, there's some other things that I forgot or didn't write down, yada yada, but we're moving past that because trying to get through this quickly. So moving on to the next slide. Those at the end of the road. Don't worry everyone. I talk about will get their own slide. This is just a quick break between sections. I just don't have a joke here. Like, basically this is just, I can stop here and I can start recording again so my phone camera doesn't turn off after 30 minutes of inactivity. That is literally it. So yeah. Pause. Cut this out. Move on to the next slide. So, picking up at the end of the road. For the most part, this is in order as I learned things and put them, into my Word document about this. There may be a thing or two that is out of order. That's fine. We'll talk about that later. First up, unfortunately, we have Michelle Trachtenberg. She was born October 11th, 1985. She passed February 26th. I know her for some roles, and basically these are just the highlights that I know of. The Adventures of Pete and Pete. Nice show about, the crazy life of two brothers, in Midwest America. I don't know how else to describe it really, but it was a nice 90s thing. And I obviously related because me and Pat's. Harriet the Spy. I didn't actually see the movie, but I think this was like a big hit for her as a child actor. Right after Pete and Pete. But basically, you know, she's this detective, you know, solving mysteries and stuff like that. And I thought it was pretty cool and interesting. Inspector Gadget, which... It feels surprising that's 91 to me, because I didn't see Inspector Gadget until I feel like after I heard about Pete and Pete and stuff, but maybe I'm wrong. But, whatever. She played the role of Penny Gadget, the genius character of, you know, the show, who basically figured out Dr. Claw's plots and worked to protect her uncle from getting taken out by MAD, I think it was the organization that Claw had under him. But yeah, and then she was also in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She was Buffy's younger sister. I didn't watch that show as much, but it was a good show. It feels like it ran longer than 3 years. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. My cousin Alex, I think, is an expert on the show. She could tell more about it, but she's not here to do it. And I'm sorry, I'm not doing this justice. And then Euro Trip 2004. Wow. I know that, like, she's one of the main 4 of the cast, and basically, it's just a, you know, crazy, wild, I think the term is, like, sex drive journey across Europe. Basically, the main character, you know, is trying to win back the love of his life, quote unquote, his German pen pal. And yeah, she's, you know, just caught up in the trip because her brother is like an expert on historical stuff, and she wanted to come along because it's a trip to Europe. It was fun. I think it gets better from here. I hope it does. Moving on. Gene Hackman. He was born January 30th, 1930. He passed February 18th, unfortunately. He was an actor and author. I noted Mad Dog Called because that was like the first role on his IMDb. The French Connection in 1971, because I haven't seen it myself, but I hear that's like a big role for him. Superman in 1978. Dude, he was comic book Lex Luthor. Okay, if you've not seen Superman in 1978, I would check it out. Obviously, it is very different from Man of Steel and whatever this year's Superman movie was, which I did see, by the way. And just, yeah, but like the movie, the tone, he just fit it so well. Enemy of the State in 1998. Holy crap, dude. Like, basically, it's been a while since I've seen the movie, but he's basically that conspiracy guy who's like, oh, you know, Big Brother's watching and stuff like that, and I'm not going to dispute that claim, posting this on YouTube for crap. But he played that part so well. Like, great actor. He's an author. I forgot to put down a couple of his books, and I do apologize for that, Mr. Hackman. But I knew you for acting. And then Welcome to Mooseport, 2004. That was like one of the last things where he was an actor. He may have produced or directed or something. I don't know. I didn't look into him as much. My apologies for that, Mr. Hackman. I'm literally apologizing to a picture. Maybe I can do, you know, better retrospective at the end of the road for you later in life myself, hopefully. George Foreman. Born January 10th, 1949. Passed March 21st. Basically, like, the big thing that I think we all know him for is being the heavyweight boxing champion. He won a gold medal in 1968, and then he won the world heavyweight title in 1973. He also had the Pan American title, I think it was 71 or 72, but I felt like that was a bit confusing, so I didn't put that in. My apologies for that. But also, you may know him for the George Foreman grill. Basically, it helps to squeeze out all the fats from your stuff. I've used one a lot, and I love it, and I thank you for that, Mr. Foreman. And also, like, you're just a very badass dude. You kicked ass, you took names. But you were also a good, kind human being, and I want to thank you for that. Lynn Park Lincoln. May 12th, 1961 to April 22nd. She was an actress. Basically, I just know her, like it says at the bottom, for her work in Friday the 13th, Part 7, as Tina, who had telekinetic powers and really got to take the fight to Jason in that movie. And it was pretty cool, and some of the effects were pretty awesome. And I liked it. Also, apparently, she took part in Rose Blood, a Friday the 13th fan film, which was somewhere in the 2000s. I want to say like 2014 or something like that. I forgot to put the date down. Again, this is alpha testing. I'm doing this within a week. Like, I don't know, like Tina was a good, final girl in that movie, and just hitting Jason with psychic powers is pretty cool. That's it for me. My uncle James O'Brien, born August 31st, 1949, passed April 30th. He was my dad's brother. He always had a smile on his face and a joke to tell, and I'll miss him. I didn't get to see him as much after my dad passed, unfortunately, because it was a challenge on both sides, the family line, to see one another, because obviously them seeing us and seeing, like, if you've met my brother John, like, he looks a lot like my dad. Like, I'd say a bit taller and thinner now, but yeah, like, John and Pat are pretty spot on for looks with him, and then me, I'm kind of like a bit more like my mom, I would say, rounder features and such. I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying. But it was a good dude. He was definitely like your I don't want to say standard, like 80s, 90s uncle, but he was a funny guy. He'd razz you a bit, he'd have a funny story or two, and like, oh, I remember when your dad and I did blah blah blah, like that. Whenever you got caught doing something you shouldn't have been doing. Be good, kids. But yeah, he was like, losing him sucks a lot, obviously, and especially because like he was like an icon of that generation, like a good solid dude from that generation. It's tough from here still, and I got a few more to go. Ozzy freaking Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness himself. That's what he called himself, man. He was freaking a fucking rock legend icon. Born December 3rd, 1948. Passed July 22nd, sorry, 2025. Singer, songwriter, and media personality. He was in the band Black Sabbath, and obviously his own band, because he did his own songs. A couple of the songs that I know him for really quickly. Crazy Train, War Pigs, and then of course Mama I'm Coming Home, as well as Bark at the Moon, which I learned about from the game Guitar Hero, or Guitar Hero 2, one of the Guitar Hero games. And then also, just for the media personality thing, he had his own reality show, the Osbournes. It was early 2000s. We got to see his home life with wife Sharon and his two kids, whose names are escaping me right now, and I apologize for that. Sorry. But what I know him for sure was on Little Nicky. He made an appearance. Basically, toward the end of the film, he bites the head off of a bat that is a demon. It's confusing, but if you watch the movie, it made sense. Because one of the iconic things from his career was, he bit the head off of a bat live on stage. I will say that happened. I will say I've heard that story. I cannot substantiate whether or not that happened, or whether it was real or whatever. And then in the video game Brutal Legend, he's the Prince of Darkness. I forget what his role in that game is, but freaking it's Ozzy Osbourne, man. Like, It's about a soup like a master level roadie basically getting sent to a rock and roll hell world, and having to fight and protect classic rock. And Ozzy Osbourne is one of the gods of that realm and helps him out a bit. Also, it's Jack Black as the main character. Hulk Hogan. Hulkamania himself. Born August 11th, 1953. Past July 24th. Basically, he was a pro wrestler from the, I want to say 70s and 80s. I forget, how long he got the title, held it for, etc., etc. But holy crap, dude, he was nuts. And like I said a minute ago, Hulkamania. I didn't watch wrestling back at that time, but Hulkamania was where he would enter this trance-like state, where like punches and hits would not affect him. Like basically, it was his, coming back from losing moment, like Popeye with spinach, or there are other things I just can't think of them right now, and I'm trying to go quick. But he made various other media appearances, like in Rocky, Rocky 3 specifically, if I recall right. Basically, it's the heavyweight boxing champion Rocky versus Hulk Hogan. Yeah, it was just a little play match for charity and such, blah blah blah. He also appeared in the movie Suburban Commando, like movie that I haven't seen, but I've heard this nostalgia critic talk about, and it looked interesting and fun. Basically, space bounty hunter hero guy crashes on Earth, has to lay low for 6 weeks while his ship recharges, and shenanigans ensue. And dude, he's playing opposite Christopher Lloyd, one of my favorite actors of all time. It was good. And then Mr. Nanny. Basically, this was again late '80s, early '90s. I forgot to put the date, but he he played the big, strong dude who has to watch little children and do girly things, and it's not like Oscar-worthy stuff, but it was fun and entertaining. Like I heard nostalgia critic talk about it. It looked like fun and cheesy for a kids movie. It was definitely after Home Alone, so it had to be '90 at least. Because Home Alone, if I recall right, was '89. Almost done, and a couple that kind of sting, unfortunately. Well, this next one does. Jim Ward. Born May 15th, 1959. Passed December 10th. I just mainly know him as a voice actor. I will probably have to look into his career after this and talk about him like Mr. Foreman and a few of the other people that I've talked about already. But I know him best for Captain Quark from the Ratchet and Clank series. As far as I know, playing Quark in every game. And the Quark character really resonated with me because Quark started out as this washed out blowhard of a character, unfortunately. Like, oh hey, his heroing days are long behind him. Now he's doing ads and crap like that just to pay the bills and yada yada. And unfortunately, in the first game, he's working for the bad guy, who's basically ripping planets apart to Frankenstein his own perfect planet for his people, so that he can pollute it and do the whole thing over again. Yeah, but I liked the character Quark got a redemption arc. In 2, unfortunately, he's trying to, create a disaster and then save the galaxy from it himself. But in 3, he got to actually step back up and be a hero, like he's always, like the galaxy knows him to be. I'm a sucker for redemption arcs. Captain Quark, Daniel Fortescue, Joey Wheeler, Kuwabara from Yu Yu Hakusho, yeah. But also he had some other prevalent roles. Doug Dimmadome from Fairly Odd Parents. I forget the name of the newscaster, Fairly Odd Parents. Evil sidekick dude from Danny Phantom, and then I forget the names of the 2 characters from Ben 10, but dude's made out of crystal, and then Accelerate, I think it was? I don't know. Diamond Head, I think is the other name. But yeah, I love him for Captain Quark mainly. I'm familiar with the other characters, but like I think he played the character very well. Played up the big. I'm a Buck Rogers. I know there are other characters, but yeah, like he played up that type of character, like big, larger than life, and like it's awesome. And apparently he won an award for it. He won an award for his work. I'll try and talk about you more, Mr. Ward, I swear. I got a lot to talk about. Beatrice Picard. Born July 3rd, 1929. December 9th, 2025. Basically, I heard about this. I added her because, she was the French voice actress for Marge Simpsons in the French-Canadian version of The Simpsons. I don't have any clips or anything, but The Simpsons is like, a cultural touchstone from 1989, I think, to still now. I haven't watched as much recently because, you gotta move on and do other stuff, but yeah, like, it stinks that they'll have to figure something out as the series goes on from here, because they are in season 36, I want to say it is now, or 37. We're nearing the end, because I can see on my screen how many slides I got left. Jeffrey Garcia. I should really remove the mouse pointer. But Jeffrey Garcia, born May 3rd in 75. Past to 50. I don't know what happened. I didn't look into it. He was a comedian and actor. And honestly, basically, I just know him best as Sheen from Jimmy Neutron. Like, he played the character so well with manic, childlike energy. Like, Jimmy's friends are your average, 9 to 10-year-old kids. And, like, Sheen, the character, was very hyperactive, loved Ultralord, and was crazy about, like, video games and, just being a 90s, early 2000s boy. And I think he did a good job of that. I can't really identify any of the other characters on the side here, unfortunately, but yeah, like, just Sheen alone gets him on my list. And then I'm going to apologize because I didn't work on pronouncing this name before I even got to here, but Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa. Born in 1927-1950, December 4th, unfortunately. I know he had like a number of roles and appearances and stuff, but like this is about what I remember. Mortal Kombat 1995, which still feels strange to me because I saw that in the theater with John and Pat. John had taken us, and I think that was rated PG-13. I think, if not, like, it couldn't be R because there's no way. It wasn't that violent and bloody. Like, people just got bonked at worst, and maybe a bit bloody, maybe. But yeah, and I'm pretty sure he coined the phrase, "Your soul is mine." Like, I can't do it as well as he did, but holy crap. Dude is an icon just for that alone. Like, he's a scary, intimidating guy. And then also, Johnny Tsunami from 1999. I don't know it as well myself, but I listened to the podcast, Mom Can't Cook, a DCOM podcast. Basically, two guys talk about, 90s Disney Channel original movies. And he was Johnny Tsunami. Well, yeah, he's the grandfather of the main character, and he is the actual Johnny Tsunami, and the main character is just a kid who's good at surfing and wants to learn snowboarding because he has to move to a place where you can snowboard, apparently. It's wild. But they made some jokes about, like, oh hey, like, they just made some jokes about relating back to this Mortal Kombat role, and like, for real, he's iconic. You can't deny it. Nearly at the end. Last two slides. Stranger Things Season 5. They had the final season split up over a couple of releases. Thanksgiving night, Christmas Day, and then finally New Year's Eve. The finale aired on New Year's Eve. I watched it New Year's Day because time zones and crap like that. Like, oh, 8 o'clock Eastern. I'm not in that time zone. I think I'm 2 hours away from that. And, like, this is like a couple hours after watching it that I'm recording this. Because I had to add in the pictures and do some of the other stuff that I did to this PowerPoint. And in short, I would say it was worth it. Had a few more twists and turns, and in the end, I think the story ended pretty well. You know, number of epilogues, and you know, seeing that ideally the characters get to grow beyond this disaster. Although that, you know, see the end of the road, see the end of the story. I'm trying to avoid spoilers because I know there are some people who may not have seen it yet. You know, and even honestly in the future, people might not have seen it yet, and it's not going to do any good to spoil it. And then Pat, if you watch it specifically, I think you'll like it. Like, there is definitely one thing that you might gripe about, but it can be dismissed because it's just a theory. A Stranger Things Season 5 final episode theory. Maybe we can talk about it someday after, you know, you've caught up with all that stuff. He decided to hold back on watching everything. Might have been a smart choice because, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. The final slide. Because I have to wrap this up somehow. That was my 2025. I'm rushing to get this done now, literally New Year's Day. I try and get this done New Year's Eve so I can edit the entire day New Year's Day, because I'm a nerd who stays in his house and does his own thing. Honestly, you know, it had ups and downs, but I learned a bit. I grew a little. You know, one of the other things that I forgot to mention was I did some more casual walking outside of work for better cardio and stuff like that, because Patrick started doing some 5Ks and stuff like that with some people from work. I did not, but the sentiment is still there and it's nice. And I got a Fitbit, so I keep track of, you know, heart rate and stuff like that and try and do better for myself, because like I talked about the last couple of years, exercise is important, as well as hydration, as well as dental health care, because it's another thing they're going to work on too for this year. But yeah, going into 2026, you know, more D&D talk about the Strixhaven campaign and other campaigns. That is my plan, as well as a few other campaigns. I got a book from Obvious Mimic Press, I think it was, which was basically, oh hey, like a solo campaign for a singular character. So it's just you and the book, and you're trying to make things work. I started it, but I had to deal with all the Christmas stuff, so it got pushed back till after this. Potentially playing with others. Maybe now that I have a good base and we're past the holidays, I can coordinate that. I talked with Regina about potentially, you know, playing another D&D campaign with her, David, and anyone else we can wrangle into it. Like back in September or something, but, you know, holidays, and they've got 2 kids to watch out for and stuff like that, so it's a possibility. But also I can potentially coordinate on Facebook, Discord, whatever else. I remember the Super Mario movie in April, Super Mario Galaxy. I put that on there just so it would seem like I actually have some plans. Sakai Con in October, like I mentioned. Colossal Con in May/June, because, you know, it usually does, it's like, you know, transition time between the two. Brian and Iron talks about seeing a couple of Fathom events. There's a Gundam movie, Endless Waltz, I think, around the 12th, as well as a Lupin the Third, which I think I gotta get back to him like within the next 2 days or so. And then there's more, but I forget, and I'm in a rush. And that is the end of the slideshow. And I'm afraid if I click, it's going to go back and show all the things and yada yada. Let's see. Okay, so it just goes to a black screen. Good. Yeah, I don't know what else there is to say about, you know, 2025 or going into 2026. I'm gonna try and, you know, do more walking and stuff. I'm gonna try and take care of my dental health, like I mentioned. Working out a bit more, doing some stuff. My weight's down here in the basement, you know, potentially transitioning some stuff down here, like my DVD collection, so I can watch movies and whatnot down here. Assuming my DVD player decides to work properly with the setup down here. It should. I just had issues with one of the Doctor Who DVDs a couple of years back and a few other things. Yeah, I think that about covers it. I hope you guys like this format. This is probably going to be a format that I'm going to use, you know, for things in the future, like D&D and such, and the end of the year, and a few other things. I have some stuff, obviously, to learn, to grow and improve it, but for an alpha test, I'd give myself a B, honestly. Also, I did, like, most of this presentation over the last week and a half or so. You know, also between Christmas and grocery shopping and taking care of a million things, because we're not quite out of the woods with knee replacement surgery recovery, but we're in a pretty good position, I would say. I don't know. Like I'm trying to end it on a, you know, like nice little high note, like higher note. But I'm tired and I want to get this done and I've got to edit it. So, you know, I'll just leave it on the, you know, normal ending. Have fun, stay safe, keep hydrated, and of course remember, every character, every year, every character, yeah, has a story to tell. I'm Valiant Bradley James, the character investigator, the cosplay enthusiast, the photographer, that guy who watched Stranger Things Season 5 the day after, and so many other things. And that's cool. You know? You be you, I'll be me, we'll do our things, and, you know, maybe I'll see you out there. Maybe you can be enough of a highlight to appear in my 2026 highlight reel. If you play in my D&D campaign, you will for sure. Brian, you might if I see the Fathom event stuff with you, the Gundam stuff, or Lupin the Third, or whatever. That's something. But yeah, thank you for watching if you made it this far. I know I'm crazy and rambly, but it's nice to get stuff out and to be heard. And again, I thank you for being here and observing any of it with me. So, till next time, everyone, stay safe. I don't know. I don't know if I appear in the shot or not. I'm tired. I don't care. The main thing is the screen. Look at the screen. Be engaged. Leave likes. Encourage me to keep doing this crap. God, I need encouragement. I put this off a lot. I'm out.